Everybody today. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Diana Needham from Business Book Partners. And one of the things that Jen and I talked about as we were, prayerfully putting this event together was what is something that is on the heart of a lot of us as authors. And one of the things that we hear a lot is that we wonder, does our message really matter? And we have self-doubt and we have fears that come up around this whole process of writing a book, publishing a book, getting our message out in the world. So in the time that we have together today, I want to just share a little bit about how we can overcome that, because we all have it. Like, let's just be honest. I know it's Saturday lunchtime. Let's just be open and honest and admit that we all have these fears and doubts and perhaps worry and maybe even anxiety that come up about how our message is going to be perceived, how we're going to be perceived. And so let's just have an open and honest conversation about that today. Is that okay? Jen is graciously moderating, so I'm not looking at the comments right now, but I just want to remind you as you're watching this of 2 Timothy 1:7. For God hath not given us the spirit of fear, but of power and of love and of a sound mind. Let that sink in. God has not given us the spirit of fear. Fear, when we think about fear, F-E-A-R, false evidence appearing real. Like when we are in fear about anything, it seems so real, but actually it's not. It's false evidence appearing real. So let me just hop on in here and let's talk for a minute about a big question that a lot of people have in my world, and I work with authors, nonfiction authors, is, does my message really matter? Does it really matter? Absolutely it matters. But sometimes we wonder, does it really matter? And is anybody going to care? So I'm going to encourage us all today to consider that our message boils down to one really simple thing. It's how we connect with another human being on the planet. It's how we connect soul to soul, heart to heart. It's how we connect. And our message matters for a multitude of reasons. But one is that, first of all, God has given it to us. Whatever it is that He has put on your heart to share with the world, it's there for a reason. I know you know that, but sometimes we just need to be reminded, it's there for a reason. He gave it to you for a reason. He's given you a calling. There's something that you're supposed to be saying. There's something that you're supposed to be sharing. And so your message does matter. And something that I remind myself of a lot is that, and I want you to think about this, there are people that are waiting for your message, and they can only hear it from you. Now think about all of the books that you have read about your topic, whatever your topic is. You probably read hundreds of books on your topic, tens, if not hundreds, right? So you've read a lot of books, and if you've noticed that there are some books that they almost sound like the Charlie Brown, teacher in the background, wah, 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 wah. And it just doesn't land. And it's good information, but it's not speaking. It's not here. It's not giving us what we are really looking for. But then there are other books, and we've been mentioning a lot of different books in this so far today. There are other books that it's just like we devour them. Like we are just so in resonance with the author. And that's the experience we want our readers to have. And there are people waiting for your message. They can only hear it from you because they're resonating. There's a connection. There's a heart connection with those people. They're waiting for you to show up. They're waiting for you to explain it in a way that they can understand. They're waiting for somebody to come into their world to explain things or to share things that speak in here. So there are people waiting for you. And I just want to remind us all here today that that is true. So let me just ask, anybody here, have you ever ask yourself this question? Who am I to write this book? Who am I? Who am I to write this book? What could I possibly add to the conversation that hasn't already been said? What is it that I bring? And maybe you've asked yourself, what if other people judge me based on what I've written? What if other people reject me? What if not everybody loves me? You know, we all want to be loved. We all have these questions or some variation. So again, I'm not looking at the chat. Just like, let us know. Have you had these questions? Who am I to write this? What could I possibly add? Like, who am I? I'm not known. People don't know who I am. They haven't heard my name. Why would I want to add another book out there? What if others judge me or reject me? Have you said to yourself any of those things? And I'm guessing the answer is probably yes. But you know what? If you have asked yourself any of those questions, here's what I know about you. You're a child of God and you walk in faith. I know that about you because you're here with us. You're a child of God and you walk in faith. And the fact that we're asking ourselves those questions means we are empathetic to other people and their needs. We are humble, right? We care. We're thoughtful. We're respectful of other people. We're respectful of their time. We're respectful of their eyeballs, of what they allow to come into their world. We're very respectful of that. And knowing that about you, what I am going to say is that for those reasons, that's exactly why you need to share your message. Now, I know that we've got people here, some people here who have already published, and you've got your book out there, and maybe you've withdrawn a little bit from sharing it. I'm sure we have people here that you're in the writing right now, like you're in that process right now of writing, and some of these doubts and these fears are coming up for you. And it's because that you care so deeply. It's because that you have this calling. It's because that you have something big to share with the world. This is the reason that you're here. This is the reason. This is your time. This is why you need to share your message and become a published author. So I would be curious if you could drop in the comments, if you are writing right now, you've not yet published, that would be really helpful, for me to know, because if you haven't yet published, I know that those fears are present because they're present in all of the author clients. I've worked with hundreds of authors, and, all of my clients have the same, these same kind of things that they come up for all of us. So, if you've already published, you know what I'm talking about because you've had this experience, right? You've had these fears come up and you've worked your way through them, and somehow you got your book out there, which is, it's like super awesome. So here's the thing. We have to train our emotional brain to reframe that fear, that anxiety that comes up. We've got to train our brain, our mind, our spirit to reframe this fear and these things that are like playing like a broken record in the background, and change them from fear to fuel to take action. You know what? Scientifically, if you look side by side at the emotions that are tied with fear and the emotions that are tied to excitement, did you know they are exactly the same? They're exactly the same. All we have to do is make this little mental shift that, you know what I'm feeling like maybe fear, that's really excitement. There are people waiting for this message. God has blessed me with something that I want to share with the world. I am so grateful and thankful that this is here and I get to fill this role and I get to do this. We've got to train our emotional brain to reframe the fear and use it as fuel. Does that make sense, my friends here? If it does, I know Jen or somebody's moderating here for me, like drop that in. Does that make sense that we got to train ourselves? Because you know what? Our mind left unattended, I meant to say, our mind left unattended will take us to places that we don't want to go, that God does not want us to go there. So we've got to train our brain. Okay, so how do you do that? I am going to give you a framework that I'm hoping will help you. And when we're finished here, I am going to drop a link in the chat of how you can go download the slides and you can download this framework. So if you think that this framework would help you and you want to actually see it in writing, I'm going to give you a link. It's my gift to you today for coming and being part of this amazing summit and this amazing event that we're here sharing this Saturday together. So I am very much like about getting it out of your head and out of your heart onto a piece of paper, because when we get it on a piece of paper, we can actually look at it. As long as it's running around in our brain, we can't see it, right? All we know is it's causing us anxiety or it's causing us worry or it's causing us concern. We can't see it. So here's what I'm going to suggest. Get a pad of paper and make 3 columns. And the very first column on the left, list all of your fears. I'm afraid of what? I'm afraid that some people won't love me, for example. I'm afraid that if I share my story, I'm going to have to be vulnerable, and I'm not sure I'm ready to do that. I'm afraid that if I put this out there, no one's going to buy it. I'm afraid. Like, just list them, all of them, like, get it out. Because when we get it out, we can deal with it. Okay, so now let's just imagine you got all your fears over here. And in the next column, I want you to put beside it, is this likely to actually happen? Is it likely that somebody might not like what you have to say? Is it? Is it likely? Probably, right? There are people on the planet that your book is not intended for, right? I mean, you're here with this big message to share with a specific group of people that are looking for either a solution, they're looking for entertainments. I know some of you are writing children's books and young adult, and like you're writing fiction. You're writing for a very specific audience. And the people that aren't in that audience are not going to resonate with what you write. And you know what? That's awesome. That's the way it works, right? That's perfectly fine. But like for each of your fears, if you ask yourself, is this likely to happen? Yes or no, or maybe, like, right? Write that down. And then in the column right beside that, answer this question. If this fear actually happened, what would the consequence be? What would the consequence be if somebody wrote and told you that your book didn't hit the mark or it didn't resonate with them or whatever? What would the consequence of that be? Yes, we're all human. And yes, that would sting. And yes, we would probably have a little bit of a moment. But in the scheme of things, when we think about the fact that God has given us this message, this story, this whatever it is that we're writing about to share with the world, in the scheme of things, does it really matter? What's the consequence? And then when you can look at that, like objectively, now it's in black and white, then you can actually ask yourself, shift from the fear to say, when I write this book or when I publish this book, what will I get for myself? Like how will I feel? What will be happening for me as the author? Now, here's what I know, and I tell my author clients this all the time, and they don't believe me at the beginning. But those of you that have published, you'll get this like right away. When we're at the beginning of the process of writing a book, we've never done it before. We have these fear, like we have things that are coming up. We work through this process as we're writing, as we're getting feedback, as the book is getting better and it's getting better and it's getting better. We gain self-confidence. We gain clarity. We become so much more clear with ourselves as we're writing about what this big message is or this story and how we need to tell it to reach the people that we're here to help. And what I know to be true is that the person that crosses the finish line and publishes this book is a very different person than the person that started this journey. At the end of the day, we are very different people when we get to the other side of that. So those of you that have published your book, would you say that's true? Make a comment here. Is that true for you? Are you a different person? If you've already published, are you a different person now than you were when you started writing? So then I need to wrap up here. Like I know I'm on a time frame. When I write the book, what benefit will it have to me as a person? The next thing to write down is who is being helped by my book and what will they get? What will my audience get? You know, when we're writing a book, we're writing for a specific person, knowing that there are thousands of people just like that person out there, but we're writing for one person. What is that one person going to get? So instead of thinking about, I'm writing for this sea of faces that I can't see, and they're just like a group of people, see one person. Sometimes it helps to tape that picture of that person on your monitor. So every time you sit down to write, you're looking at that person. You're looking at that person and you're writing into the heart of that person. What will they get? At the end of the day, when the book is in their hand, what will they get? And then here's the secret. For when I write the book, what benefit will I get? What benefit will they get? Say that out loud. Say it out loud. Say it out loud. I know if people are around you, they might think you're a little bit crazy. But actually, you got to say it out loud, because when we say it out loud, there's something magical about saying it out loud. Saying it out loud. And then question number 6, ask yourself, what's going to happen if I quit? What's going to happen if I quit? What's going to happen if I just don't do this? What's going to happen if this big message that God has given me to get out, or the story that God has imparted to me to share with the world, what is going to happen if I don't do it? And that's a sobering thought, my friends. That is a sobering thought. Remember what I said at the beginning, there are people waiting for your message and they can only hear it from you. What happens if you don't get your book out? What happens if your message never becomes a tangible thing that they can actually read? That's a sobering thought. So I want you to think about that. And then based on all that information, make a decision. Am I going to write this or am I not going to write it? And there's no right or wrong answer here. You might decide from an emotional perspective that what you're sharing is you're not totally healed from it yet. Maybe this is not the right time. Or you might decide, yep, I'm doing this. I know God's called me to do this. This is a message that I need to get out in the world. Yes, I'm going to do this. Then we got to figure out what is my plan if any of those circumstances or consequences really happen. You know, if somebody says, your book didn't resonate with me, or I didn't get any value out of it, we got to prepare ourselves that that's probably going to happen, right? And what is my plan? I need to be ready emotionally, spiritually, physically. Like got to be ready for whatever might happen. And then how can I use that fear to help me? Again, how can I turn that fear into fuel? I hope this has been helpful. I'm going to drop a link. You can go get my slides. If you are writing nonfiction, and you're looking for an author community to be part of, we would love to have you come over. Our author community is Build Your Business with a Book. That's been mentioned a couple times here. We'd love to have, if you're looking for an author community of amazing entrepreneur authors that have a big message, have a big mission, come over and join us. So Jen, if it's okay with you, I'm going to can I just drop those links right here into the video chat? Oops, you're muted, I think.
We want to thank Diana Needham for her words of wisdom and sharing her gifts with us. We love you, Diana. And we are now going to jump on over with Daniel Talley. So just hold on while we end this broadcast, and we are going to pop in with our next presenter, Daniel. So thank you, Diana.
My pleasure. Happy to be here.